Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin.
In the beginning there is only darkness, a darkness so complete it seems to breathe with the slow rhythm of the earth itself. The deep sea is a place where sunlight cannot reach, where the ocean folds into itself and holds secrets older than mountains. Here in the quiet abyss, life has learned to adapt in ways that shimmer with mystery. Creatures move with patience, with silence, as if they know the ocean is listening. The water here is heavy, pressing against every shape, yet within that weight there is balance, a stillness that holds the fragile thread of survival. The ocean's surface dances with storms and sunlight, but far below it is always night. In this endless night, the very concept of breathing takes on new meaning. Many creatures rely on oxygen carried down by invisible currents, a gift that drifts from the living surface world. Others rely on chemical whispers rising from vents in the ocean floor, where the planet releases its hidden energy. Each breath in the deep is precious, a slow exchange that allows life to endure in a place most would call unlivable. Imagine a lanternfish drifting through this watery night, its body lined with faint lights like stars scattered across a small galaxy. These lights are not for show alone, they are survival. In the darkness, bioluminescence is a language. It is the flicker of attraction, the warning of danger, the mimicry of something harmless or alluring. The sea here is full of silent conversations in light, brief sparks that fade into the blackness as quickly as they arrive. Every flash is a question, every glow an answer, each one written in the shared breath of the abyss. The deep sea holds rivers within the sea itself. In some places, salt water that is heavier than the surrounding ocean sinks into valleys, forming brine pools that look like hidden lakes beneath the waves. Their surfaces ripple as if the laws of physics are doubled. To approach these lakes is to feel an invisible boundary, like touching glass that does not shatter. Few can survive crossing into those dense waters, but on their edges, life thrives. Mussels, crabs, and worms that gather where chemistry writes the rules of possibility. Slowly, as we sink deeper, the silence becomes more than an absence of sound. It becomes a presence, a companion that wraps around everything. Whales' songs may travel thousands of miles, but even they are softened here, broken into fragments by the water's density. To listen in the deep sea is to lean into emptiness, to hear only the faint pulse of one's own body. Yet even this silence is alive, filled with the hum of molecules, the constant motion of unseen currents, and the soft vibrations of creatures that never need to see light. It is in this place that pressure becomes both enemy and sculptor. The weight of the ocean increases with every meter, until it presses like a mountain on every inch of skin. A human body would falter here, bones and lungs collapsing, but the creatures born into this realm have been shaped by it. Some have bodies like jelly, boneless and fluid, able to bend and twist without breaking. Others have developed shells and structures strengthened not against the pressure, but with it, as though the ocean itself is part of their design. Pressure is not an obstacle here, it is a partner. If we pause in this descent, floating in the endless night, we can feel time itself stretching. Without sunrise or sunset, days lose their edges. Life moves to the rhythm of currents instead of clocks. Many creatures drift for years before they are grown, while others bloom and vanish in a single season. The abyss does not measure time as we do. It measures endurance, patience, and the ability to breathe in ways that match the heartbeat of the planet. Down here, to survive is to surrender to the pace of eternity. The abyss reminds us that breathing is more than the air in our lungs. It is the slow exchange of life itself, the way molecules travel from sunlight above to darkness below, the way one creature's exhalation becomes another's chance to live. In the deep sea, breathing is a whisper carried across miles of silent water. connecting the fragile threads of existence into something vast, something unbroken. And in that endless night, we are reminded that life will always find a way to breathe, even in the places where light has forgotten to shine. Let us drift deeper now, leaving behind the first brush of mystery, and moving into the core of the abyss where the true story of breathing unfolds in forms both strange and delicate. In this world, each creature has been sculpted by time into a shape that seems almost like poetry written in water. The gulper eel opens its vast mouth, wide enough to take in prey larger than itself, yet spends most of its life drifting silently, conserving every ounce of energy. Its body is a ribbon, thin and supple, bending with currents instead of pushing against them. There is a quiet lesson here, that survival is not always about strength, but about yielding, about knowing when to move and when to rest. In the absence of light, the dance of existence becomes slow, conserving, and endlessly patient. The anglerfish, with its lantern of flesh glowing faintly, teaches us about attraction in a world without sun. That small light, a living flame of bacteria partnered with the fish, is not only a beacon for food but also for connection. In the emptiness of the abyss, finding another of your kind is a near miracle, and so the light becomes a thread between beings, a fragile signal that life is not alone here. Scientists speak of symbiosis, the partnership between species that allows both to endure, but in the deep sea it feels more like companionship, a gentle bargain between solitude and survival. The angler's glow is both a question and an answer. I am here. Who else lingers in this darkness with me? As we continue to imagine this realm, we can almost sense the hidden forests of hydrothermal vents rising from the seafloor. Chimneys of black stone spill mineral-rich water into the ocean, and around them bloom gardens of life that do not need sunlight. Here, bacteria transform chemicals into energy, creating an ecosystem where none should exist. Giant tube worms, bright red plumes extended like flags, harbor these bacteria inside their own bodies, letting them do the work of turning poison into nourishment. It is as if the earth itself breathes through these vents, exhaling warmth and minerals, and in that exhalation, life takes root. The deep reminds us that breathing does not always mean air. It can mean the exchange of energy, the quiet turning of elements into sustenance. Even the fish and crustaceans here seem to understand the art of patience. Food is scarce, so meals are rare and precious. Many creatures can slow their metabolism to a whisper, waiting days, weeks, even months for the next meal to drift by. Some carry glowing lures to draw prey close, while others simply wait with mouths open, letting chance deliver what it will. It is a lifestyle woven from scarcity, but not from despair. Instead, it shows us a rhythm of trust in the ocean's currents, an acceptance that what is needed will come in time. The deep sea whispers of endurance, of learning to thrive not in abundance, but in the delicate balance of enough. The darkness here has a way of shaping more than bodies. It shapes senses. Some animals have eyes larger than their entire heads, built to capture the faintest glimmer of light. Others abandon sight altogether, growing antennae and sensitive skin that can read the texture of water itself. To them, the flow of currents is as visible as daylight to us. This teaches us something gentle and profound. When one sense is taken, another may bloom. Life always finds a way to listen, even when silence is thick, even when the world seems empty. In the deep sea, perception is not about clarity, but about attunement, the soft art of listening to what is almost invisible. Now imagine the way whales dive into this blackness. Though they belong to the sunlit world, they descend here for food, their bodies built to withstand the pressure for a time. Their hearts slow, conserving oxygen, and each breath they carry from above becomes precious. They teach us that even those who do not live in the abyss are connected to it, bound by cycles of nourishment and migration. The deep sea is not isolated. It is a hidden organ of the earth, pumping nutrients upward, recycling what has sunk, feeding not only its own inhabitants but the entire ocean. What lies hidden below sustains what flourishes above, as quietly essential as the lungs inside a chest. And when we pause to reflect on this, we see how breathing itself becomes a metaphor for connection. Just as air travels between trees and our own lungs, the sea's hidden cycles tie the surface to the abyss. Phytoplankton bloom in sunlight, producing oxygen, while deep currents carry nutrients upward, feeding them. In turn, the dying bodies of surface creatures sink, becoming nourishment for the dark. It is a circle of exchange, each layer giving and receiving, none existing without the other. The deep sea may seem like another world, but it is woven into our own with threads we seldom notice, threads that are as quiet as a heartbeat and as vast as the ocean itself. This section drifts us deeper into understanding that breathing in the abyss is not merely survival, but relationship. Every glow, every slow pulse, every whisper of current is part of a vast, patient story. It is the earth itself showing us that even in places where light cannot reach, life still moves gently forward, guided not by urgency, but by the steady rhythm of endurance. The abyss teaches us to breathe more slowly, to feel connection in silence, and to understand that even the darkest places are filled with a quiet form of light. Let us settle now into the deepest part of this journey, where the story of the abyss comes to its gentle close. Down here, where darkness is almost physical, the sea feels less like water and more like space itself, a universe folded beneath the waves. The creatures that drift past us seem like constellations, their lights flickering faintly, carrying messages that only the patient can read. To float here is to feel the stillness of centuries, the weight of time pressing as steadily as the water itself. And yet in this stillness there is life, fragile and persistent, echoing a truth that feels as old as the earth. Wherever there is space for a breath, there is space for wonder. The abyss reminds us of beginnings, for many scientists believe that life itself may have started in such places, near the warmth of hydrothermal vents where minerals and heat created the first fragile sparks of chemistry. In imagining this, we see the deep sea not as the end of light, but as the cradle of existence, a place where darkness and heat gave rise to the possibility of breath. If this is true, then every lungful of air we take today carries within it a memory of the abyss. To breathe is to share in that origin, to carry forward the whispers of the ocean floor that still hum within us. As we drift through this thought, let us remember how the abyss holds the planet's memory. Each layer of sediment on the seafloor is a page in Earth's story, storing the traces of climates long gone, the shells of plankton that once floated in sunlight, the dust of volcanic eruptions, and the ashes of ancient forests. To look at the floor of the abyss is to read a history written slowly, grain by grain, over millions of years. It is a reminder that time does not rush here. It writes itself in silence, in layers, teaching us patience, teaching us that the present is always built upon the quiet persistence of the past. And yet even this realm is not untouched by us. Plastic drifts down into the abyss, ghostly bags and threads settling among creatures that have never seen the sun. The breath of human industry travels this far, carried by currents, resting in valleys no diver has touched. It is a haunting reminder that the abyss is not separate from our world but tied to it. What we release above will eventually arrive below, altering a realm that has remained unchanged for ages. In this, the abyss becomes both a sanctuary and a mirror, showing us not only the resilience of life, but also the fragility of its balance. But beyond the sadness lies a softer truth. The abyss is resilient, shaped by pressures far greater than those we impose. Life here has survived meteor strikes, ice ages, shifting continents, and still it continues. There is comfort in knowing that the creatures of the deep have endured cataclysms and will likely endure ours. Their patience is immeasurable, their adaptations extraordinary. They remind us that life does not yield easily, that it will always find quiet ways to endure, even in the coldest and darkest places. Perhaps this resilience is the deepest lesson of the abyss, that survival is not a battle but a flowing, an endless adjustment to what comes. Now imagine rising slowly, leaving behind the pressure and the silence, carrying with us the memory of this hidden world. As the water grows lighter, the lessons remain: patience, resilience, connection. The abyss teaches us that breathing is not just an act of survival, but of belonging. It ties us to currents, to unseen companions, to histories written in sediment, to futures shaped by adaptation. The air we breathe above and the chemicals exchanged below are not separate, they are part of the same circle. In recognizing this, we begin to see the abyss not as distant, but as within us, alive in every breath we take. When we finally break the surface in our imagination, the world above feels different. The sunlight is brighter because we have seen the dark. The air feels lighter because we have known the weight of the deep. And in the hush of that memory, we carry a piece of the abyss with us. It whispers in our lungs, reminding us to slow down, to listen more carefully, to breathe with patience. The abyss has no need for hurry, no room for urgency. It teaches us that life is not about rushing toward the next moment, but about dwelling in the quiet unfolding of the present. So let us close this story as gently as the tide closes upon the shore. The darkness that breathes is not empty. It is full of life, of memory, of connection. It shows us that even in the absence of light there can be beauty, and even in the heaviest silence there can be song. The abyss holds a mirror to our own lives, asking us to breathe more deeply, to trust the unseen currents, to find light in unlikely places. And as we step away from its imagined waters, we do so with a softer heart, carrying the deep sea's quiet reminder that we, too, are part of this endless, breathing ocean of existence. The ocean is dark, yet it glimmers. In the endless black of the abyss, life has found a way to paint the night with living lanterns. Imagine drifting into this realm where stars seem to float not in the sky, but in water, where every spark and shimmer is born from bodies that glow. Bioluminescence, the light made by life itself, is the quiet lantern of the deep, and it has turned the abyss into a universe of its own. Down here there is no sun, no moon, no fire, and yet the darkness is never truly empty. Every flicker is a whisper, every gleam a small declaration. I exist, I endure, I am alive. It begins in the smallest of beings. Plankton, drifting on unseen currents, carry the gift of light within their delicate forms. When disturbed, they ignite in blue-green sparks, like sparks scattered from a gentle fire. Entire waves can glow because of them, shorelines lighting up as though the ocean itself is breathing in stars. But in the abyss, these sparks are rarer and perhaps more precious. They flash as warnings, as calls, as lures. To a predator, a flash might say, "Beware, I am not alone." To a mate, it may say, "Come closer, I am here." To the abyss itself, it says simply, "I shine because I must." The lanternfish carries this gift more vividly than most. Its body is lined with photophores, tiny organs that glow like scattered constellations. With these lights, it can disguise itself against the faint glow of water above, hiding its outline from hunters below. It is camouflage written in light, a mirror of the dim sea. Others use their lanterns differently. Some blink in sequences, like a code that only their kind can read. The darkness becomes a canvas for messages, each pulse a word, each glow a sentence. Here, communication is not spoken but illuminated, conversations drifting silently across the void. The anglerfish holds its lantern aloft, a beacon hanging from a fleshy rod above its mouth. The glow is soft, hypnotic, swaying like a flame. Small creatures, curious and unknowing, drift close, and the angler waits with patient stillness until the moment arrives. Light is life, but in the abyss, light can also mean death. This duality makes the deep sea both wondrous and haunting. It is a reminder that beauty is never simple, that even the most enchanting glow may conceal a quiet hunger. The angler's lantern is both invitation and trap, a symbol of the paradox that defines the abyss itself. If we move deeper, the spectacle only grows. Jellyfish bloom in slow pulses of light, their bodies translucent and shimmering, each beat of their bells painting trails of luminescence behind them. Some glow with steady light, others flash in cascading waves like lightning storms drifting upside down in water. Each display has purpose. Some startle predators, dazzling them into hesitation. Some confuse, distracting long enough to allow escape. Others are mere illusions, shaped by evolution into patterns that mimic something larger, something stronger. The deep sea is an artist, and light is its chosen medium. One of the most haunting displays belongs to the siphonophores, colonies of creatures linked into a single drifting body. They stretch across the abyss like living ribbons, some longer than a blue whale. Their glowing parts shimmer in waves as though the ocean itself has decided to weave strands of starlight into its fabric. Each individual creature is small and fragile, but together they create something vast, a body that is both many and one. Watching them is like watching constellations unravel across a sky of water, a reminder that unity creates a beauty greater than solitude. The riddle of bioluminescence is that it exists where light should not be. It is as though life itself refuses to accept pure darkness, choosing instead to kindle its own flames. Scientists tell us it comes from chemical reactions, from luciferin and luciferase mixing inside cells, releasing photons into the black, yet knowing the chemistry does not strip away the wonder. Instead, it deepens it, showing us that even in the most remote corners of existence, life has found a way to turn molecules into miracles. Light is not just an accident here. It is a necessity, a survival, and a form of quiet art. Drifting in the abyss, surrounded by these living lanterns, one begins to lose the sense of where the body ends and the sea begins. The glows surround and envelop, making the dark feel less empty. Perhaps this is why bioluminescence stirs such deep emotions in us. It touches something primal, the way fire once did on land. It reassures us, comforts us, tells us that life persists even in the loneliest of places. To see light in darkness is to feel hope, even if you are a drifting fish, a wandering jelly, or simply a human imagining these depths from afar. As we close this first part of the story, let the lanterns of the deep linger in our minds. They remind us that even in the darkest waters, there are sparks of resilience. They are proof that the ocean's night is not empty, but full of silent dialogues written in lashes and glimmers, and in their quiet language of light, they whisper something we can carry with us. That beauty does not need a stage of sunlight to exist. It can bloom even in silence, even in solitude, even in the abyss. Now let us drift further into the quiet glow, deeper into the living galaxy that shines beneath the waves. The lanterns of the abyss are not ornaments, nor are they chance accidents of nature. They are survival itself, painted in light. If you close your eyes and imagine the sea at its greatest depths, what you might picture is endless darkness. But the truth is more tender. The abyss is alive with lanterns, gentle, flickering, purposeful. Each one tells a story. Each one reveals how life has learned to adapt when all else is absent. Where the sun refuses to shine, creatures have kindled their own stars. Consider the hatchetfish with its body shaped like a silver blade, its flanks lined with lights. These photophores are not random. They are carefully arranged to mimic the glow that filters down faintly from above. In doing so, the fish disappears into the water column, its silhouette erased. It is a survival strategy called counterillumination, a way of becoming invisible by glowing. To us, it seems paradoxical light used as camouflage, but in the deep sea, paradox is often truth. The hatchetfish whispers a lesson about blending in, about survival through subtlety rather than confrontation. Then there is the dragonfish, a creature as fierce as its name suggests, yet as delicate as glass. Its body glows with scattered points of light, but hidden within its mouth is something more astonishing, invisible beams of red. In the deep sea, most creatures see only in blue and green, for those are the wavelengths that travel farthest in water. The dragonfish, however, creates its own private wavelength, a secret lantern that only it can perceive. With it, it can hunt unseen, shining light upon prey without ever revealing itself. It is a vision of stealth, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful tools are the ones hidden from others' eyes. Farther still, we find organisms that do not merely glow but choreograph entire performances. Some jellyfish erupt in cascades of light when touched, dazzling predators in sudden brilliance. Others release glowing particles into the water, drifting like false bodies while they slip silently away. It is not light alone, but the story told by light that matters here. The abyss is a stage without sound, without words, but not without messages. Each flicker is chosen, each glow an intention. To witness it is to understand that communication does not always need a voice. It can be written in photons, carried by currents, felt more than heard. And then there are the firefly squid of shallower depths, whose seasonal gatherings light up entire oceansides with their brilliance. Though they do not live in the true abyss, they offer us a glimpse into the abundance of bioluminescence, into the way light becomes a chorus when many voices join. Imagine them gathering in countless numbers, their bodies shimmering like blue stars, the sea itself transformed into a living constellation. Their glow is not only a lure or a warning, but also a display of life's exuberance, a reminder that survival is not always grim endurance. It can also be celebration, a festival in the night. Scientists have long wondered why so many species glow. Some answers are clear: to lure, to warn, to hide, to call. Yet much remains unknown. Why do some creatures flash rhythmically while others shimmer constantly? Why do some lights glow blue, others green, and a few rare ones red? Perhaps there are meanings we have not yet learned to read, languages older than our kind, still written across the ocean's black pages. To imagine this is to feel small, yet comforted, for it reminds us that mystery is not gone from the world. In every glow is a question, and in every unanswered question is wonder. What is most striking is how universal bioluminescence is. It appears in bacteria, in fish, in squid, in worms, in jellyfish, in creatures so unrelated they share nothing else but this gift. Evolution has written the script again and again in distant lineages, in scattered corners of time. Light has been reinvented, reshaped, reborn. This repetition suggests something fundamental, that in darkness, light is always necessary, always inevitable. Life, it seems, will always reach for brightness, no matter how heavy the night. This realization touches us deeply, for it reflects our own longings, the way we kindle fires, the way we build lamps, the way we reach for stars. To float among these lanterns is to feel suspended in eternity. There is no up, no down, only darkness and glow, silence and flicker. The human mind in such a place would lose track of time. Minutes would stretch like hours, hours like dreams. The lanterns would be the only markers, the only reminders that something moves, that something endures. Perhaps this is why imagining them feels so peaceful. They slow us, they calm us, they remind us that not all survival is a struggle. Sometimes it is a gentle shining, a quiet endurance, a patient glow that carries through the night. As this second part of the story comes to its close, let the lanterns remind us of something tender, that even in absence, presence can be created. Light blooms not because the sun is gone, but because life chooses not to surrender. The abyss, therefore, is not emptiness but fullness, not silence but conversation, not void but creation. Its lanterns are its voice, its memory, its resilience. And in their glow we find a reflection of ourselves, the quiet need to shine, to be seen, to exist meaningfully even when the world is dark. Now we rise gently toward the closing thoughts of these lanterns, carrying with us the soft gleam of the abyss. The deep sea, though filled with shadows, is never entirely without light. Instead, it is filled with lanterns that move, shimmer, and fade like distant stars in an infinite sky. As we drift here, we can feel how each glow is more than survival. It is meaning, it is connection, it is persistence written in brightness. To look upon these lights is to be reminded that even in the most hidden places of our world, beauty does not vanish. It simply transforms into subtler, quieter forms. The lanterns of the deep tell us a story of patience. Every flicker is costly, every glow a measure of energy conserved for the right moment. To shine when one must and remain dark when one can is a delicate balance. It is as though these creatures breathe light instead of air, inhaling the dark and exhaling a gentle luminescence. This rhythm echoes a truth we often forget, that our own lives, too, are made of careful exchanges, of sparks that must be kindled and preserved, of energies we release into the world when the time is right. The abyss mirrors back to us the wisdom of restraint, the art of choosing when to shine. Consider how these lanterns bring together predator and prey, companion and wanderer in the endless black. A single flash can attract, can warn, can invite, can deceive. Light becomes not just survival but relationship. It ties beings together in ways we cannot fully translate, but we can sense its tenderness. Even the anglerfish, with its deceptive glow, reminds us of the double edge of beauty, that attraction and danger can be intertwined, that even in the cruelest designs there is a strange form of grace. To study these lights is to study connection itself, fragile, fleeting, yet deeply necessary. And still there are lights that serve no clear purpose we can name. Some creatures glow constantly, softly, without obvious need. They burn in the dark not as lures, not as camouflage, not as defense, but simply as a steady presence. Perhaps their lanterns are remnants of an older time, echoes of ancestors who found survival in glowing. Or perhaps they are expressions of abundance, of a life that does not need to hide every spark. In them, we are reminded that not all beauty must serve a function. Sometimes beauty simply is, existing quietly in the vast silence. The abyss does not keep these lanterns only for itself. When creatures rise from the deep, their glow is carried upward, bringing hints of the abyss into shallower waters. Sailors have long told stories of seas that glimmer at night, waves breaking into blue fire, ships surrounded by halos of light. These moments are gifts from the deep, small reminders that beneath the surface lies a hidden world alight with its own constellations. We who stand on shores or drift on ships are touched by that secret realm, even if we never see it directly. The lanterns are not separate from us. They reach upward, brushing against our own nights. And perhaps this is why bioluminescence touches something ancient within us. For countless generations, humans have been drawn to light in darkness, fire, stars, candles, lamps. To imagine creatures glowing in the deep is to imagine kinship, a shared instinct to shine against the night. It comforts us, whispers to us that our need for light is not unique, but part of a larger truth woven into life itself. The lanterns of the abyss, though hidden, reflect our own lanterns, the lights we kindle against fear, against solitude, against silence. They are reminders that we, too, are beings who choose not to surrender to the dark. As we close this story, let us hold on to that quiet understanding. The abyss may seem far, unreachable, alien, yet its lanterns speak a language we recognize. They tell us that survival can be gentle, that communication can be silent, that beauty can bloom in places where we expect nothing but void. They teach us that light in all its forms is a defiance of emptiness, and they remind us that to glow, even softly, is an act of resilience. When we leave this imagined descent, we carry their lesson with us, that even the smallest lantern can make darkness less lonely, and that sometimes, in the quietest night, a single spark is enough to hold back infinity. Beneath the restless waves lies a hidden topography, a landscape of peaks and valleys, of ridges and cliffs taller and deeper than those found on land. These are the mountains beneath the waves, vast and silent ranges that stretch across the ocean floor. Imagine drifting downward past the sunlit shallows and the blue-green twilight into the midnight depths where light no longer lingers. Here, instead of flat plains, the earth reveals its submerged wilderness, mountains that rise like shadows into the dark. They are unseen by human eyes, yet they shape the seas, guide the currents, and cradle life in their folds. The mid-ocean ridges, stretching like scars across the planet, are the longest mountain chains on Earth. Thousands of kilometers long, they are born from the slow pulling apart of tectonic plates. Lava rises in the split, hardens, and builds peaks beneath the waters, birthing ranges that few will ever see. Though hidden, they form the spine of the world's oceans, shifting and changing over millennia. To imagine them is to imagine fire and stone cloaked in silence, mountains that breathe heat into water, mountains whose summits never touch the sky, but instead wear the crown of endless dark. Elsewhere, seamounts rise like solitary giants, volcanic peaks that never pierce the surface. They stand alone in the abyss, islands that never were, their slopes cloaked in coral and sponge, their summits gathering schools of fish in swirling halos. Currents strike their walls and spiral upward, bringing nutrients that feed entire ecosystems. For life drifting through the deep, a seamount is a beacon, a resting place in a desert of water. Many creatures from plankton to whales are drawn to these hidden peaks, and around them life flourishes in unlikely abundance. The mountains beneath the waves are not barren, they are cradles of living light. Even more mysterious are the trenches, valleys deeper than the tallest mountains are high. The Mariana Trench, deeper than Everest is tall, descends into darkness so absolute it feels like another world. Its walls are steep, its floor silent, and yet even there life persists. Small fish, translucent and delicate, drift along its slopes. Amphipods scavenge in the silt. Microbes feed on the chemical whispers that rise from the rocks. The trench may seem like a scar, a wound in the planet's crust, but it is also a sanctuary, a realm where life has learned patience in the face of crushing weight. In these underwater ranges, the forces of the earth and the needs of life intertwine. Hydrothermal vents spring from cracks in the seafloor, their black chimneys belching plumes rich with minerals. Around them, life blooms without sunlight, feeding on the chemical energy of the planet. Giant tube worms, ghostly white crabs, and shimmering shrimp gather in gardens that glow faintly in the dark. It is as though the mountains themselves exhale life, transforming stone and water into sustenance. The abyss is not barren. It is a place where Earth's power is written in fire and breath, hidden under kilometers of water. To float among these ranges is to feel the scale of the world in new ways. Mountains on land seem immense, but here in the abyss their size is multiplied by silence. Without horizon, without sky, their slopes appear endless, rising and falling into shadow. The mind loses track of distance, measuring instead in feelings, the weight of the water, the press of time, the hush of unseen life. These mountains remind us that Earth's face is not only what we see above, but also what lies below, unseen yet shaping everything. They are the skeleton of the planet, the deep framework upon which oceans and continents rest. And yet, though hidden, they leave their mark on us. Currents shaped by ridges influence climates. Nutrients carried upward from slopes feed the smallest plankton, which in turn feed the largest whales. Even the air we breathe is tied to these underwater ranges. For the ocean's health, its cycles of carbon and oxygen depend on the life they sustain. We are bound to mountains we will never see, breathing because of peaks that lie cloaked in the dark. In this way, the abyss is not separate from our lives. It is part of every breath, every drop of rain, every shift of wind. As this first section closes, let us linger on the image of those unseen peaks, rising and falling like silent cathedrals beneath the waves. They remind us that the world is deeper than our eyes can see, more intricate than our maps can chart. The mountains beneath the waves are more than stone. They are memory, endurance, and quiet creation. They whisper that Earth is alive in every layer, shaping life in silence, offering us beauty even in darkness. And though they are hidden, their presence endures in the tides, in the winds, in the very breath we carry with us. Now, let us journey deeper among these submerged ranges, wandering through valleys and ridges that stretch farther than continents. The mountains beneath the waves are more than stone. They are storytellers of the Earth's restless heart. Each peak, each slope, is the result of slow movements that began millions of years ago. The tectonic plates shift, drifting like enormous rafts upon molten rock, colliding, parting, and reshaping the face of the planet. Where they pull apart, new ridges rise. Where they press together, trenches plunge. To drift through this hidden landscape is to wander through time itself, a museum sculpted not in marble but in silence and salt water. Imagine gliding along the slope of a seamount, where cold currents brush against warmer streams. Here, the mixing of waters stirs life into bloom. Tiny plankton gather, feeding fish that spiral upward in silver ribbons. Sharks patrol the edges, their shapes moving like shadows across the rock. Even whales pause along these mountains, using the slopes as waypoints in their vast migrations. The peaks, though hidden, guide life as surely as stars guide sailors above. They are landmarks in the deep, known instinctively to creatures who never see the surface. The ridges, too, are vibrant with life. Though we picture stone and emptiness, their flanks are dressed with corals that glow faintly, with sponges that filter endless water, with anemones that open like flowers in perpetual night. These slow-growing beings can live for centuries, some for thousands of years, rooted in stone yet reaching outward into the currents. To touch one would be to place a hand on living history, on an organism that has quietly watched ages pass. In their patience we see another rhythm, slower than our own, yet filled with quiet wisdom. Deeper still, the hydrothermal vents rise like chimneys, releasing plumes of superheated water rich with minerals. Around them, strange creatures cluster, dependent not on sunlight but on chemistry. Here, bacteria turn sulfur into life, creating energy in the absence of light. Tube worms extend scarlet plumes into the dark, their bodies housing entire colonies of microbes within. Shrimp gather in teeming crowds, their backs glimmering with faint iridescence. These communities thrive in places that seem impossible, where heat and pressure combine to create both danger and sustenance. They remind us that life is not bound by the rules we expect. It finds a way wherever a crack opens, wherever a possibility flickers. And beyond the vents in the cold seep fields, methane and hydrogen sulfide leak slowly from the ground, feeding different but equally strange gardens. Mussels with golden shells cluster in beds, crabs scuttle through their ranks, and worms burrow in the sediments below. These places are slower, quieter than the roaring vents, yet equally alive. The mountains beneath the waves are not static, they exhale, they whisper, they create. They are part of Earth's breathing, its slow exhalations of gas and heat, its constant shaping of the conditions for life. Even the trenches, though heavy with silence, are not lifeless. Amphipods, tiny scavengers, thrive under crushing pressures, their bodies adapted to depths that would crush ours in an instant. Ghostly fish hover above the silt, their forms translucent, their movements deliberate. Microbes coat the rocks, invisible to our eyes but vital to the recycling of matter. What falls from above, dead fish, drifting plankton, fragments of life from sunlit waters, becomes nourishment here. In this way, the trenches are not graves but kitchens, places where death is transformed back into life, where nothing is wasted in the endless cycles of the sea. These mountains shape not only life but the ocean itself. As currents strike their slopes, they are forced upward, carrying nutrients to the surface. This process, called upwelling, feeds the smallest phytoplankton, which in turn sustain vast webs of life. Entire fisheries depend on these hidden ridges. Even the air we breathe is shaped by them, for phytoplankton produce much of the oxygen in our atmosphere. It is a quiet connection, peaks that no one sees sustaining the breath of creatures above the surface. The mountains beneath the waves are not remote, they are part of our every inhale. To imagine all this is to feel a shift in perspective. The world is not defined by the land we stand upon, but by the hidden landscapes beneath the sea. Mountains taller than Everest lie cloaked in shadow, valleys deeper than any canyon cradle unseen life. The earth we know is only the surface of a far larger story, a story still being written in silence. These ranges remind us of humility, that what is most important may be invisible, that what sustains us may lie beyond our sight. As we drift toward the end of this section, let the image of these underwater ranges stay with us. They are not lifeless stone but living monuments, homes to creatures, sculptors of currents, cradles of breath. They whisper that the earth is alive in ways we cannot always see, that its hidden face is as vast and beautiful as the one we walk upon. And they remind us that mystery still endures, waiting patiently in the dark, in the folds of the mountains beneath the waves. Let us linger now among the deepest folds of these hidden ranges, where the story of the mountains beneath the waves comes to its quiet conclusion. Here, the seafloor stretches like an endless map, sculpted by fire and water, by time and silence. The ridges rise in slow arcs, the trenches fall away like vast sighs, and the seamounts stand solitary, guardians of secrets. In this unseen realm, Earth writes its history not in ink, but in stone, layering each eruption, each shift, each collapse into the memory of the planet. To drift above these forms is to read a book whose language is older than any we speak, a story told in pressure and silence. The mountains of the abyss remind us that the earth is restless. Even now, beneath kilometers of water, they change. Lava seeps from cracks, forming new crust. Earthquakes shake unseen valleys, releasing ripples that travel across the seas. Slopes collapse, sending avalanches of sediment cascading into the dark. These events go unnoticed by us, yet they shape the very world we live upon. Our continents are anchored to the same forces that build and break these mountains. What happens in the abyss is not distant. It is part of the breathing body of Earth, a reminder that our planet is alive beneath our feet and beneath our seas. And through all this, life persists. Coral gardens cling to seamounts for centuries, growing slowly, building skeletons that form reefs in the dark. Fish migrate along the ridges, using their slopes as highways across oceans. Creatures find refuge in the cracks and caves, in the shadows of cliffs that never see the sun. Even in the trenches where pressure would crush steel, small lives endure, reminding us of resilience beyond imagination. These ranges, though hidden, are homes as rich and varied as any forest or mountain above the surface. They are not barren, they are filled with whispers of life, woven into the very stone. The human connection to these mountains is subtle but profound. Though we cannot see them, they guide our climate, our weather, our breath. Currents shaped by ridges distribute heat across the globe, softening winters and cooling summers. Nutrients carried upward from slopes feed the phytoplankton that create oxygen, oxygen that fills our lungs with every inhale. Even the rainfall that nurtures our fields and forests is tied to cycles driven by oceans shaped by these hidden ranges. Without them, the world we know could not exist. Their silence is our survival, their shadows our shelter. Yet there is also fragility here. Deep-sea mining threatens to scar these slopes, to scrape away corals that have lived longer than civilizations, to disturb ecosystems that take centuries to form. The thought is heavy, that mountains which endured for millennia could be altered in moments. And so the abyss reminds us of responsibility, of the need to tread gently even in places we may never see. To know that life thrives in silence is to understand that it deserves respect, that its endurance is not ours to undo. The mountains beneath the waves are not ours to take, they are part of the earth's own quiet song. As we rise from these depths, carrying the weight of what we have seen, we begin to feel the resonance of their lesson. The hidden ranges tell us that beauty does not require our witness to exist. They tell us that creation unfolds whether or not we notice, that life and stone weave their patterns beyond our gaze. They tell us that patience, measured in centuries, in millennia, in eons, is a form of strength. The abyss has no urgency, no haste. It shapes itself slowly, quietly, endlessly. And in that slowness there is wisdom for us, who so often rush and forget. When we finally return to the surface in our imagination, the mountains remain with us. Though unseen, they are present in every tide, in every gust of wind, in every breath of air. They are proof that mystery still lies beneath our feet, that the world is deeper, vaster, more intricate than we can ever fully know. And in that mystery lies comfort, for it means that wonder will never be exhausted. There will always be peaks we have not seen, valleys we have not entered, stories we have not yet heard. The mountains beneath the waves remind us of humility, of awe, of connection. So let this story end as softly as the sea folds over itself. The mountains are hidden, but they are here. They are the earth's quiet heartbeats, steady beneath the waters, shaping life in silence. And as we breathe, we carry their gift within us, unseen but essential. The mountains beneath the waves whisper gently, "You are part of me as I am part of you." In their silence, we find our own, and in their endura. NCE, we learn to endure. They are the unseen cathedrals of the deep, forever rising, forever waiting, forever alive in the endless hush of the ocean. The ocean is not only a place of motion, of currents and tides, but also a place of deep and resonant silence. The silence that listens. To imagine drifting into the abyss is to imagine entering a realm where sound is subdued, where every vibration is absorbed by the weight of water, and where the world feels both vast and hushed. Yet this silence is not emptiness. It is alive, filled with subtle signals and whispers, with echoes carried across thousands of miles. In the deep, silence is not absence, it is presence, a medium that allows life to listen, to feel, to connect in ways beyond our ordinary senses. Sound travels farther in water than in air. A whale's song can cross oceans, its low notes resonating for hundreds, even thousands of miles. To float in the deep sea is to enter a cathedral of resonance where these long, slow songs wander endlessly through darkness. The silence here is not broken by them, it is shaped by them like distant bells tolling in a valley of shadow. Other creatures, too, send their calls into this quiet, dolphins clicking, fish drumming, shrimp crackling. Together they weave a tapestry of sound within the stillness. The silence listens, carrying each note as if it were a prayer. But beyond the voices of animals, there is another kind of quiet here, the quiet of waiting, of patience. Many creatures of the deep rely on senses other than hearing, yet they too are shaped by silence. Squid drift with pulses of motion that create almost no sound. Jellyfish move in gentle rhythms, their bells folding and unfolding noiselessly. Even the largest sharks glide in stillness, their movements hidden in the water's hush. This world is a place where silence is survival, where to be unnoticed is to endure. It is a place where listening becomes more important than speaking, where attention is a form of life itself. To us, silence often feels empty, but in the deep sea it is filled with presence. The silence listens to the migrations of creatures, to the hum of shifting currents, to the faint thunder of underwater quakes. It listens to the slow collapse of icebergs, to the roll of distant storms, to the sigh of tides brushing against continental slopes. It listens even to us, to the propellers of ships, the echo of sonar, the far-off rumble of human activity. The ocean absorbs it all, carrying the memories of sound in its endless body. To enter this silence is to realize that we are never unheard. Scientists study this realm with hydrophones, instruments that capture the subtle vibrations of the sea. Through them, we learn that the ocean is never truly mute. The crackle of snapping shrimp can sound like rain falling on leaves. The song of a fin whale resonates like the deep hum of a giant bell. The distant boom of an undersea quake can echo like thunder rolling across a mountain range. These sounds are part of the silence, not intrusions into it, for they travel in ways that feel less like interruptions and more like voices carried reverently through a still cathedral. The silence holds them, honors them, and remembers them. And yet the silence of the deep sea is more than physical. It is also a feeling. To imagine floating, there is to feel solitude that is not lonely but profound. It is to experience a pause from the clamor of the surface world, a stillness so complete that one begins to notice the quiet rhythms of existence, the slow pulse of a jellyfish, the subtle glow of a lanternfish, the silent drift of snow-like particles, marine snow falling endlessly from above. It is a world where life continues without haste, without noise, without urgency. The silence is not emptiness but calm. In this way, the silence that listens becomes a teacher. It shows us that sound does not need to be constant, that presence does not always require noise. It teaches us that listening is as vital as speaking, that stillness can be alive with meaning. The creatures of the abyss remind us of this with every slow movement, with every flicker of light. They show us that to endure, one must sometimes simply be, breathing gently, waiting patiently, listening deeply. The silence of the deep sea is not absence, it is a different kind of fullness. As this first section closes, let us imagine ourselves suspended in that hush, surrounded by the vast body of the sea. The silence is heavy yet tender. It carries voices but never shouts. It invites us to listen not only to the ocean but to ourselves. In the stillness, we hear our own breath, our own heartbeat, our own presence. The silence that listens reminds us that life is not always about speaking or moving or filling every moment. Sometimes it is about pausing, about feeling the quiet that connects all things, about honoring the hush that underlies every sound. Now let us move deeper into the heart of the ocean. Hush, where the silence that listens is more than a backdrop. It is the stage upon which all life unfolds. In this realm, silence is not stillness, but a canvas stretched wide enough to hold every vibration, every whisper of movement. Here, the smallest gesture, a fin brushing water, a bubble rising, a shrimp snapping its claw, becomes amplified by the surrounding quiet. The silence listens, endlessly patient, gathering these fragments into a chorus so subtle we can barely imagine it. To dwell here is to live within a kind of music too soft for ordinary ears, yet too vast to be forgotten. The whales, with their low and resonant songs, are among the most profound voices in this cathedral of water. A single note can travel for hundreds of miles, weaving its way through layers of the sea, bending around mountains, echoing through trenches. For the whales, these songs are not noise but maps, messages, connections across distances greater than continents. Some sing to find companions, some to mark territory, some simply to echo themselves into the vastness. When we imagine these songs moving through the abyss, we see the silence bending around them, holding them gently, carrying them farther than air could ever carry. The ocean itself becomes an instrument, tuned to the resonance of life. But not only giants use this medium, tiny creatures too find their voices here. Fish drum with their swim bladders, creating sounds like heartbeats in the dark. Shrimp snap their claws, releasing bubbles that crackle with astonishing force, creating a rain of sound that fills estuaries and reefs. Even worms can hum faintly within their burrows, vibrations spreading into the sand. In the hush of the sea, every creature contributes, every vibration matters. The silence listens to all, without judgment, without hierarchy, holding the loud and the faint alike in its deep embrace. Beyond the creatures, the sea itself speaks. Currents hum as they move, rivers within the ocean brushing along ridges and slopes. The shifting of tectonic plates sends out deep rumbles, the groans of Earth's bones adjusting beneath the pressure. Icebergs collapse into the sea with thunderous cracks, their echoes rolling like storms through the abyss. Each sound is folded into the ocean's memory, carried across miles, softened, transformed. The silence does not resist, it absorbs, it carries, it remembers. It is the keeper of all voices, the recorder of time's slow unfolding. In this vast stillness, survival often depends on listening. Many deep-sea creatures cannot rely on sight, light is scarce, often absent. Instead, they tune themselves to vibrations, to the faintest disturbances in water. A predator's approach, the drift of prey, the subtle shift of a current, these are felt as much as heard. The silence becomes a partner in survival, offering a backdrop against which even the smallest signal can be detected. To live here is to be attuned, to be aware, to be receptive. It is to learn that listening is not passive but active, an act of constant attention. And yet the silence of the ocean is not unbroken. We too have entered it. The propellers of ships hum endlessly above, their sounds traveling far into the abyss. The pings of sonar, sharp and sudden, cut through the water like pulses of lightning. Drills and engines echo along the continental shelves. For the creatures of the sea, these are intrusions, sudden shouts in a place that has always known whispers. Some whales change their songs to be heard above the din. Some dolphins grow confused by the echoes of sonar. The silence that once listened peacefully now bears the weight of our noise. It carries it still, because that is its nature, but it changes the balance of the abyss. And so the silence becomes both fragile and strong. Fragile because it can be disrupted, strong because it always endures. Even amid our sounds, the sea continues to listen, continues to carry the voices of its own creatures. It is a reminder that silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of space, the openness to receive. And in this openness lies resilience. The ocean has always absorbed storms, quakes, eruptions. It has always remembered, always endured. It will continue to do so, though perhaps altered by us, though perhaps scarred, yet still it listens. As we drift toward the end of this section, we realize that the silence of the deep sea is not foreign to us. We too know moments of quiet that are alive with presence. A forest at dawn, a snowfall in the night, the hush of a room where someone we love breathes softly beside us. These are our own oceans of silence, and like the sea, they are not empty. They are full of listening, of waiting, of holding space for life to move and speak. The silence that listens teaches us to honor these moments, to hear the subtleties that lie beneath noise, to remember that listening is itself a form of connection. Let us rest now in the quietest folds of the sea, where the silence that listens becomes a closing hymn. Here, far from the light and far from the noise of the surface, the water holds itself with a kind of reverence. Every vibration is softened, every echo slowed until time itself seems hushed. This is the deep ocean's gift, that in its stillness we may hear more, not less. The silence does not erase sound, it cradles it, shaping it into something lasting, something gentle. To drift here is to feel not emptiness but fullness, as though the sea itself is breathing in all that exists and holding it with infinite patience. The silence reminds us of how voices are carried. A whale's call, sung hours ago and miles away, still drifts through these waters. The crack of a glacier, long vanished into the surface waves, still resonates faintly in the abyss. Even the songs of creatures too small for our eyes continue to ripple outward, remembered by the water itself. This is the silence that listens, a silence that does not forget, a silence that gathers all things into itself. It is not quick like the winds, not fleeting like the air. It is steady, patient, a vessel of memory. For the creatures that live here, this silence is not only background, it is survival. Lanternfish glow without sound, their signals written in light. Squid shift colors silently, their bodies flickering in rhythms unseen in the dark. Sharks glide noiselessly, their bodies sculpted to slip through water without a trace. In such a world, to make sound is to take a risk, to draw attention. And yet, when they do speak, the ocean carries their voices farther than we can imagine. It is a delicate balance, when to remain still, when to cry out. The silence holds both choices without judgment, giving space to every life. Even our own voices have entered this hush. Submarines once descended with their engines low, their metal bodies vibrating softly into the dark. Scientists send instruments that hum faintly, listening, recording. Our presence is written now into the ocean's memory, woven into the silence alongside whales and shrimp, earthquakes and storms. This realization is humbling. We are not apart from this silence, but inside it, part of it, marked by it. The ocean has heard us, even when we thought we were alone. It listens without end, without preference, without pause. The silence of the abyss is also a teacher of slowness. On land, sound moves quickly, echoing off walls, scattering into the air. In the sea, sound moves farther, deeper, lingering long after its source has gone. In this way, the silence tells us that our actions too linger, that what we release into the world continues to travel beyond us. Every word, every gesture, every choice ripples outward, shaping lives we may never see. The ocean's silence reflects our own. It reminds us that what we give, whether noise or kindness, will endure in ways unseen. It asks us to choose carefully what we send into the vastness. And perhaps this is the truest gift of the silence that listens. It offers us reflection. To pause in its embrace is to hear our own heart more clearly, to notice the smallness of our breath, the quiet rhythm of our being. In the absence of distraction, we find presence, we find ourselves. Just as creatures of the abyss rely on vibrations too subtle for sight, so too can we learn to notice the subtleties in our own lives, the soft kindness of another's touch, the gentle patience of a waiting moment, the quiet hope that lingers even in difficulty. Silence is not empty. It is full of meaning waiting to be felt. As we rise now from the imagined depths, the silence follows us. We carry it upward into the light, into the noise of our days. And though the world above is filled with motion and clamor, the memory of the abyss remains. It whispers to us in moments of stillness, in the hush before dawn, in the calm after a storm, in the breath between words. The silence that listens does not belong only to the sea. It belongs to every place where life pauses long enough to hear. It is in forests, in deserts, in hearts. It is in us. So let this story close as gently as the sea closes around its mountains and valleys. The silence of the deep does not vanish. It endures, always listening, always holding, always waiting. It teaches us that listening is not absence but presence, that quiet can be more powerful than sound, that patience can be more enduring than haste. And as we leave it, we do so with gratitude, carrying its lessons softly in our lungs like a breath that has no end. The silence that listens remains, forever echoing, forever still, forever alive in the deepest waters of the world. The ocean presses down with a force so immense it defies ordinary thought. In the shallows, the waves dance lightly, brushing the skin with playful weight. But as one sinks deeper, meter by meter, the pressure grows, stacking upon itself like invisible stone. By the time we reach the great abyss, the weight is crushing, heavier than mountains, pressing with tons upon every square inch. And yet, astonishingly, life endures. The pressure that shapes life is not merely an obstacle, it is a sculptor, molding bodies and minds, guiding the paths of survival in places that would seem impossible. To imagine this world, let us descend slowly. At 100 meters, the lungs begin to tighten. At 1,000, steel would buckle under the load. But the creatures here do not break. They are made of softness, of fluidity, of forms that bend instead of shatter. Jellyfish drift with bodies that are almost entirely water, yielding to the ocean rather than resisting it. Fish possess bones so delicate they are more like threads than scaffolds, flexible under strain. Some creatures have no air-filled cavities at all, their organs compressed into dense, resilient forms. They are designed not to fight the pressure, but to become part of it, as if the ocean itself has written their architecture. The Hadal snailfish found in the deepest trenches is a perfect example. Its body is fragile, almost translucent, its skin paper-thin, yet it thrives at depths where the weight could crush submarines. Scientists have found that its proteins are stabilized by special molecules, tiny adjustments that allow its cells to remain fluid under immense force. In this way, life bends but does not break. It teaches us that endurance is not always about strength. Sometimes it is about adaptability, about learning to yield with grace. The snailfish does not resist the deep, it becomes the deep. Even microbes feel the shaping hand of pressure. In the trenches, bacteria live in conditions so extreme they are called pisophiles, pressure-loving organisms. They flourish where others collapse, using the weight as fuel for their unique chemistries. Their enzymes fold differently, their membranes grow stronger, their processes shift to match the squeeze of the abyss. What for us would be destruction becomes for them a way of life. They reveal that life is not defined by what it avoids, but by what it embraces, that even crushing force can be turned into opportunity. Pressure also sculpts behavior. Some deep-sea creatures move slowly, conserving energy because every motion is harder under such weight. Others grow large, their bodies stretched into strange, delicate shapes, maximizing efficiency in a world that leaves no room for waste. Giant amphipods, many times the size of their shallow water relatives, scuttle across the trench floors, their size made possible by the absence of competition and the shaping hand of pressure. Here, slowness is survival, fragility is strength, and pressure becomes a teacher that guides evolution into unexpected forms. For us, pressure is a barrier. Divers must carry air carefully balanced, submarines must be built with walls thick as fortresses. But for the creatures of the abyss, it is simply the fabric of life. They do not perceive it as danger or burden. They are born into it, molded by it, carried by it as gently as we are carried by the air above. It is their normal, their element, their silence. They remind us that what seems impossible from the outside can be ordinary within, that what seems unbearable can become a home. As we imagine drifting through these depths, surrounded by beings sculpted by weight, we begin to understand pressure in a new way. It is not only a force that crushes, it is a force that shapes. It molds forms, behaviors, chemistries. It creates ecosystems where none should exist, guiding life into delicate yet enduring designs. It is an artist, carving in silence, crafting resilience from fragility. The pressure that shapes life is not a destroyer, it is a partner, an invisible sculptor working patiently, endlessly in the heart of the abyss. And as this first section comes to its quiet close, we might reflect on how pressure shapes us too. Not the weight of water, but the weight of time, of circumstance, of life itself. Like the creatures of the deep, we learn to bend rather than break, to adapt rather than resist. We discover that strength often lies in softness, in flexibility, in yielding to what surrounds us. The abyss whispers this truth, that pressure does not always crush, sometimes it creates. Let us sink further into the embrace of this unseen sculptor, where the pressure that shapes life reveals more of its artistry. Every meter downward adds a layer of weight invisible yet immense, until the sea itself becomes as heavy as stone. For us, it is impossible to endure. Our lungs would collapse, our blood would boil or freeze, our bones would fracture under the crushing load. Yet here in the trenches and plains of the abyss, creatures move with unhurried grace, their bodies born from the very pressure that would undo us. The weight is not their enemy, it is their atmosphere, their home, their eternal companion. Consider the amphipods that scurry across trench floors, their translucent bodies strangely delicate, yet thr. Iving in silence, these scavengers feast on what drifts down from the world above, fragments of fish, sinking plankton, the snow of organic matter that falls endlessly through the water column. They are patient recyclers, taking what the surface world discards and turning it into life again. The pressure they live under, far beyond what we can imagine, has not destroyed them but has made them more enduring, more resourceful. Their very enzymes have been reshaped, their cell membranes fortified to withstand the weight of mountains. The pressure teaches endurance by weaving it into their very molecules. Other creatures adapt not only in form but in rhythm. The colossal squid, drifting in the deep, grows immense, its size a testament to how pressure and darkness together nurture gigantism. Its enormous eyes, the largest of any living being, detect faint glimmers in the dark, flashes of bioluminescence that betray the presence of prey or predator. The squid's size, strange and formidable, is shaped not by abundance but by scarcity, not by freedom but by weight. In this way, pressure creates paradoxes, fragility paired with enormity, delicacy paired with strength. The abyss is filled with these quiet contradictions, sculpted patiently by its invisible hand. Microbes, too, whisper stories of pressure's influence. In the deepest trenches, some bacteria grow only when squeezed by immense force. Bring them to the surface, and they die, unable to endure the absence of pressure. For them, the crushing weight is not hardship but necessity. They have woven it into their existence so fully that life without it is impossible. These beings reveal the truth that adaptation is not always about overcoming. It can also be about becoming, about aligning so completely with one's surroundings that separation is unthinkable. For them, the deep sea's weight is as gentle as the air we breathe. Pressure also sculpts communities. Around hydrothermal vents, where water bursts forth at scalding temperatures, organisms thrive in improbable numbers. Here, life is pressed not only by weight, but by heat, by chemicals, by instability. And yet shrimp gather in swarms, worms extend scarlet plumes, crabs scuttle across mineral chimneys. Their bodies are built to endure multiple extremes at once, each adaptation a negotiation with the pressure of existence. These vents are nurseries of resilience, gardens where the sculpting force of the abyss reveals its generosity as much as its severity. In them, pressure is not just an obstacle, it is the condition that makes thriving possible. Even the behavior of fish reveals the slow shaping of pressure. Many move in deliberate economical motions, conserving energy in a world where resistance is constant. They do not dart or chase as surface fish do, but drift, hover, and strike with sudden precision when the moment is right. It is a lesson in patience, in stillness, in conserving energy until it matters most. The weight of water becomes a teacher, instilling rhythms that match the gravity of the world. Each movement is deliberate, each breath considered. In the silence of the abyss, pressure teaches restraint. And yet amid these adaptations, there is a beauty that transcends survival. To see a jellyfish unfurl its bell under the squeeze of the deep is to watch a lantern of silk folding and unfolding, as if in slow meditation. To see a snailfish glide across a trench floor is to witness fragility carried with elegance, softness thriving where only hardness seems possible. These creatures remind us that pressure does not erase beauty. Instead, it shapes it into forms we would never imagine, forms as delicate as glass and as enduring as stone. The abyss holds beauty that is not loud, not brilliant, but profound in its quiet persistence. As we rest at this depth, surrounded by beings sculpted by invisible weight, we begin to understand the lesson more deeply. Pressure is not simply something to be endured, it is something that defines, that creates, that transforms. Life in the deep has not merely survived pressure, it has been born of it. Every curve, every glow, every rhythm carries its imprint. The abyss teaches us that what feels unbearable can also be the source of strength, that what seems to crush can also carve, shaping resilience, patience, and grace. And as this second section closes, we carry this reflection with us. That pressure is not always a burden, but sometimes a gift. Just as the creatures of the deep are shaped into forms both strange and beautiful, so too are we shaped by the pressures of our lives. They mold us into patterns we could not foresee, sculpting our endurance, our patience, our quiet strengths. The ocean whispers that we are not crushed by weight, but formed by it, not broken by silence, but deepened by it. Pressure, in its endless and invisible hand, teaches us how to become. Let us wander now into the final descent of this story, where the pressure that shapes life yields its quietest truths. The weight of the ocean, constant and unyielding, seems at first to be only a burden, a force that crushes and denies. But as we look closer, as we listen more patiently, we discover that this very weight is also a giver, a sculptor of forms that could exist nowhere else. It is not the destroyer we fear, it is the artist that molds life into delicate and resilient beauty. In its endless embrace, the abyss teaches us what it means to be shaped rather than broken. Imagine the trench floors where snailfish glide like pale spirits, their soft bodies bending under the load yet never failing. Their fragility is their strength. They do not resist the water's squeeze but welcome it, their cells adjusted, their chemistry tuned, their lives aligned with pressure's rhythm. They are lessons written in flesh, reminders that survival often means surrender, that strength can be found in softness. These fish do not fight the deep, they belong to it, and in belonging they thrive. Above them, jellyfish unfold their translucent bells, pulsing with slow, deliberate grace. Their bodies, almost indistinguishable from the water itself, are designed not to stand apart but to merge, to flow with the pressure rather than against it. In their quiet movements, we see a reflection of life's gentlest strategy, to endure by becoming part of the weight that bears upon you. They glow faintly, not to challenge the dark, but to soften it, their light a whisper carried across the silent miles. The abyss through them shows us that even under the heaviest burden, beauty finds a way to bloom. Microbes unseen yet essential remind us that life is not only visible forms, but also the chemistry of resilience. Some of these tiny beings cannot survive without immense pressure pressing upon them. To bring them to the surface is to destroy them. For them, weight is not danger but necessity. They have written the deep into their very essence, encoding its force as part of their being. In this, they reveal that hardship can become identity, that what seems unbearable can be woven into the heart of existence until it becomes indispensable. They remind us that pressure can create not only endurance but belonging. The larger creatures, too, carry pressure's mark in unexpected ways. Giant squids with eyes as vast as dinner plates gaze into the abyss, their organs adapted to depths where other beings would falter. Their very enormity is a product of the abyss, their scale a response to scarcity and strain. They are mysteries rarely seen, yet their existence tells us that life does not shrink under pressure. It sometimes grows, expanding into forms we would never predict. In them, the abyss speaks of imagination, of possibilities that bloom not in freedom, but under constraint. And above all, the pressure of the deep connects every part of the ocean. Currents are guided by it, chemistry altered by it, cycles shaped by it. The carbon that sinks into the abyss, pressed into sediments, becomes memory for the planet, stored away for millennia. The oxygen produced by surface plankton depends on nutrients carried upward from deep slopes where pressure has locked them away. Even the air we breathe carries the fingerprint of the abyss, sculpted by the forces we never see. Pressure, invisible to us on land, is part of every breath we take, part of every rhythm of the earth. But there is also fragility here, for while pressure sculpts life patiently, human presence threatens to disrupt it quickly. Deep-sea mining, dragging across slopes, would break corals that have taken centuries to grow, scatter communities that live only in the stillness of the abyss. The pressure that once shaped life could be turned into a trap if we impose our haste upon its patience. And so, the deep whispers a warning along with its wisdom, that what has endured for millennia deserves reverence, that the slow work of pressure should not be undone by hurried hands. To honor the abyss is to honor life itself. As we drift upward now, leaving behind the unseen sculptor of the trenches, we carry with us its soft lessons. Pressure is not always the weight that crushes. Sometimes it is the hand that shapes, the teacher that guides, the rhythm that deepens resilience. The abyss shows us that strength is not hardness, but flexibility, not resistance, but adaptation. It shows us that fragility is not weakness, but another form of endurance, delicate yet profound. And it shows us that beauty does not vanish under weight, it emerges because of it. When we finally break the surface, the world above feels lighter, clearer, changed. We understand now that our own pressures of time, of loss, of expectation, are not only burdens but sculptors. They shape us into forms we could not foresee, forms perhaps softer, perhaps stronger, perhaps more attuned. The creatures of the deep remind us that life endures not by resisting every force but by listening, by yielding, by allowing way. GHT to become part of identity. The pressure that shapes life whispers, you are not broken by what bears down upon you, you are formed by it, and in that shaping lies both strength and grace. So let this story end with that whisper carried upward. The abyss remains below, vast and unseen, forever pressing, forever sculpting. Its weight is immense, its patience infinite, its artistry unending. Life blooms under its hand, fragile yet enduring, delicate yet eternal. And as we carry its lesson, we too may find that the pressures of our lives, though heavy, are not only obstacles. They are the hands that carve us into who we are, shaping us with quiet persistence, just as the deep sea shapes its hidden wonders.